All right, a quick recap of today's session, starting with ES. Essentially, coming into the session, we kind of have to frame this to understand the approach today. So, for that, we'll look at prior context. And the context was we're dealing with a breakout from the 4,300 level following NFP. You have a gap down on Sunday night into Monday morning that retests the 4,300 level and holds. That resolves higher into a trend day, into some near-term resistance. We come into yesterday's session looking for continued strength through 4380 to test the 4400 and 4420 level. Now, the significance of the 4420 level, as a reminder, is that it is the high point of where this daily gap is. So you do have a daily gap all through here. 4420 in that case is going to be a significant level. During the afternoon yesterday, we test that target and then see a pretty significant sell-off on much higher than average volume from that level. And so from here, the assessment is whether or not we're going to pull back more aggressively or put in some type of consolidation. Essentially, we need some type of breather after 3 days of consecutive buying. Today, we get that breather via what I call an inside day, meaning the entirety of today's daily candle is within the prior day. So anytime you have an inside day, essentially we want to come into the next day, which would be tomorrow, watching the range of the inside day. Depending on how this breaks is the direction that we will most likely be trading in. So if prior day high breaks, this is tomorrow, of course, if prior day high breaks, be looking at longs. If prior day low breaks, we'll be looking at shorts into whatever the next targets are, depending on which direction we're looking at. So we got that breather today, pretty much just an inside day, a fairly slow session. Essentially coming into the open, we're looking at how 4,400 is treated. Right, you get an initial bounce during the pre-market versus the 4,400. Could not really materialize above that 4,410. We see some selling down through 4,400. Ultimately, we had a downside reference point, a level of interest, pretty much our first area of support at 4,380 on that ES. If I bring my levels back, should see that right here. Yep, right through here. Recovered pretty swiftly from that 4380, and we're just back. We're back into 4400. So the question now is whether or not this is the extent of the breather, this is the extent of the pullback, and we're gonna continue to push higher, or if we need, more correction, and that can either be through time, which means you just have continued consolidation, so that would just look like sideways trading, or correction through price, which is continued selling, of course. And for that, we'd be looking at 43.58, potentially 43.35. So coming into tomorrow, coming into CPI, what I'm going to be looking at is how we trade again versus the 4,400 and potentially the prior day range. So that's ES. Pretty straightforward setup here. This is a tape that is now kind of being recontrolled by buyers, by the bulls, ever since we essentially held that low from Friday's NFP. So longs have primarily been the focus, with a few exceptions here and there. Like today, you could get away with a couple of shorts. Prior to that, the prior 3 days, personally, no, I'm not looking at shorts. So we'll just see how tomorrow breaks and then look for a move with the direction of the break. As far as individual names, it is pretty slow. Scans were quite dry. I do have FUTU on watch. This was a long today that we had in the list. Pretty much nailed the move there. 63.5 up into 65.5 up into 68. If we look at the opening drive trade, played out essentially perfectly. You have a 5.5% move there. Now take a look at this daily candle. That doesn't look very bullish to me. It looks like a bit of a daily overshoot and now some pretty heavy selling. See that volume? So that's pretty heavy selling. And so we'll be looking for essentially the reaction versus 63. If price fails at 63, we'll be looking for a retest down into 60 essentially. But we'll game plan for that tomorrow morning. Beyond that, it's pretty quiet out there. Pretty quiet out there. We do have NQ. I haven't looked at this yet today. I've primarily been focused on ES. Okay, essentially daily support all through here. 14,600, right? You have a daily range. Price breaks out of the daily range. Now retesting your daily volume point of control at 15,350, 15,400 area. And so if we zoom in on NQ, this is also an inside day. Right? Pretty sleepy inside day. Could not break prior day high, but managed to hold a little bit different than ES. It managed to hold this kind of 2-day volume point of control right through here. So tech showing a little bit more strength than ES. Again, with NQ, we're just looking to see how today's range breaks into tomorrow. For that, you have 15,400 essentially, right? And 15,250. So that's NQ. We covered the individual names, FUTU and ES. Looking at SPY, if anyone wants to cover this, I mean, it's pretty much the same thing as ES, right? We are dealing with an inside day. On these inside days, generally speaking, like I mentioned this morning, I like to trade near the edges of the prior day's range. And so coming into today's session, I had lower expectations for my own activity. Again, I say that because it doesn't mean there won't be opportunities. It doesn't mean there won't be trade setups or anything like that. It doesn't mean you can't make money. It's just I know that I don't do as well on an inside day. And so I tend to avoid those days when I know they're coming, or when I can reasonably expect they're coming, rather, would be a better way to phrase that. Today, again, due for some breather, right? What becomes challenging about this is that, yes, it's due for a breather. Does that necessarily mean I want to short? Personally, no, because I see 3 days of strength, right? I don't know where that next guy who missed this rally wants to start to reaccumulate. So I'm real cautious with the shorts. This is the type of environment where I'm more tactical with the shorts. Back here, you heard me say, okay, I'm tactical with the longs. Well, now we're kind of rotating higher. I'm tactical with the shorts until we start to see a bigger seller materialize. So that's pretty much the watch for the index as well as individual names. SPY, we're looking at 436.5 and 433.24 prior day range. Look at our volume through price here, 435 essentially. So this is either some type of reaccumulation pattern in the near term. Someone is buying, and we're going to resolve higher post CPI, or distribution. We have no way to know for sure until it breaks one way or another. And again, for that, simplest way is just look at prior day range. Make sense? Any questions, guys? Doesn't look like my chat is working, actually. Oh, there we go. So pretty straightforward stuff. Sounds good. All right. Looking good. Sweet. All right, guys. Well, if that is it, I will see you tomorrow for the pre-market prep live stream. Have a great evening. Hope you did well today. Don't forget to document and review your trades. If you didn't trade, or even if you did, document and review the best setup within your system. These are key ways to get more reps in and get better at what you do. All right. See you tomorrow morning. Take care. Bye-bye.